here to celebrate, and we are celebrating 5 years, but even more importantly, what we're doing tonight is really thanking and honoring Reverend Michael for all of his inspiration, his work, the energy that he's spreading around the world, and having it work through us and through everyone in Agape by extension. And we're just saying thank you so very much for what you're
And we also want to thank Akili and Reverend Cheryl and Jason for making the journey down tonight. All three of you have been so instrumental in our growth, and you have held us all along with Reverend Keith, you know, as we come together as a community. And again, like Reverend Michael said tonight, 5 years is a really big deal. And we want to thank you all, and of course Reverend Michael and Reverend Keith, thank you so much for answering the call and saying yes to us.
Are you looking at me?
Yes.
First of all, thank you for just loving up on me a minute and honoring me for the years of Agape. And I think that, Brother Keith, after that prayer, if your day job doesn't work, you should go into the ministry. Something's really working through you. I was sharing earlier in the interview that a number of years ago I had a reoccurring dream. And in this dream, myself and Dr. Daniel Morgan, the founder of the Guided Church of Religious Science, were climbing up a mountain. And every night we would get closer and closer to the top of the mountain. And the dream, you know, lasted a number of weeks, even probably years, and it was recurring. And one day we got to the top. And Dr. Dan pointed to a very large planet, and he said, "That's what I'm doing." The planet was glowing. And then I pointed to another planet, I said, "That's what I'm doing." And the planet exploded, and many satellites were formed, but the main planet was not diminished. So when I think about Soul Center, I think of you as one of those satellites that doesn't diminish the home church, the home center, the home temple, the home synagogue, the home mosque, the home holy ground, but it carries the totality of it at the center.
Yes.
So it's a holographic expression, contains the whole vibration of agape, the love, the dynamic peace, the wellness, the well-being, the inclusivity, the absolute joy, the embracing of the next stage of our evolution, always on the precipice of discovering more and more and more of who we are. You're that dynamic. And so as I think many years ago about that particular dream, I'm seeing it coming to fruition now throughout the United States and the world.
Yes.
People are asking to carry the vibration and the frequency. And obviously you have a man here
Yes.
that he absolutely carries that frequency and that vibration, and has already been mentioned. You've had the anchoring of individuals like Akili and Reverend Cheryl and Jason and others. And Kim Terranova, who wanted to be here, by the way.
She did.
But she texted us and said it would have taken her 3.5 hours to get here. So she thought she would just sit meditation with you. But you think about that, you think about Reverend Cheryl here,
I know.
who was a great teacher.
Yes.
And she's been able to forge that original desire to teach and capture these universal spiritual principles and teach them in such a profound way that changes lives forever. She's able to, she has that dynamic of not only being an attorney, which is very precise, but she understands the real law. You know, you think about a Jason who's a natural,
Yes.
who emerged out of you think about Brother Jason there, who's a natural community organizer, but came out of the I use the word church, but he has a profound understanding of these teachings that flow through him with the grace and the power and the confidence. It's very beautiful to watch. You think about Akili, my brother, we were roommates at different times. And interestingly enough, Akili had a spiritual awakening while he was in high school. I don't know if he's ever talked to you about it, but he was one of the most profound athletes in high school. He was an all-city hurdler. And in the dawn of a great meet, he gave up.
Oh, wow.
He had a moment, an epiphany, and said he's not going to compete anymore. And we were upset about it as a family. Because he would draw us together to go see him run. But he had an awakening in which he didn't want to compete like that anymore. He began to meditate. He began to study. He became a vegetarian. This is in high school. And so he had this profound awakening that he's been integrating over all these years. So you've had, obviously, Kim Terranova, who's a dynamic student and has a great articulation of the principles in a very powerful way. Is very devoted in her heart and her soul. And of course, you know what she's growing through right now. Yeah. So we want to continue to embrace her in prayer as she's rebuilding the home that was burned down. And so you have these individuals and others. Reverend Susan Shahani put a stake in the ground vibrationally. That have really. So why don't you three just come on up here and stand with us? And then you have Sister Beth
Marley.
who makes sure that the children are touched by these spiritual principles so they have less to unlearn than we do. And so when you become aware that the totality of it is here, then the quantity is not as important as the quality. That for those of you who have studied mysticism, thought, you are aware that all thoughts aren't created equal. So you're aware that particularly nowadays you have the ability to actually measure the amplitude of thoughts. Delta, alpha, theta, the different ranges, and you know that every thought is not created equal, and that a thought that's emerging from a sense of unity and communion is way more powerful than a thought that's emerging from a sense of separation. So when you have a community and people have a level of coherence around the fundamental idea of oneness and wholeness and well-being, then this community affects an entire city.
That's it.
Yeah.
You have no idea the people that you are affecting while you are worshiping on a Sunday and then continuing your classes and continuing your work at the altars of your own home. You may think, oh, there's only 100 people, only 50 people, whatever the number is. No, God doesn't know quantity. God only knows quality.
Yeah.
And so a number of people, particularly led by such an individual that's, walking
Absolutely.
vibratory frequency of God. That represents a whole nother stage of evolution, but that's a whole nother conversation. The center's moving. So 5 years is something to celebrate.
Yeah.
It is something to acknowledge. I think that's when we began to celebrate. We celebrated our first year, then we celebrated our 5th year, and 10th, and whatever. 5 is that number of creativity, and so you're
Fun.
so you're on that verge.
The wheels are turning.
Yeah, that's the artist, the creative number 5s, and so you're on that verge of something absolutely emerging in a very powerful way, and I'm very, very proud. I remember you. Now, what I would do, something that we didn't do that well, take a lot of pictures. We took a lot of pictures, but archive your situation very well.
Oh, that's
You know, like
good
you're
advice.
archiving tonight, you're taking pictures.
advice.
And now, back in those days, the old days, we didn't have the digital cell phones where you could take a picture and save it, but definitely record all the wonderful things that are going on. I mean, now I'm looking at people coming back to Agape that now have children, have gone to college, they come back, had children, you know, so you'll see generations grow in the wake of your profound excellence. And it is wonderful to look ahead and to look back at that kind of vibration, that kind of frequency. So I thank you for the honor. And, you know, I never thought, maybe you never think about, I'm going to do something for 32 years. It's always, it's just one day. That's all what I would say to you. It's just one day, it's just today. Excellence today. And then the next day, excellence today. To the best of your ability. And every day's different. Some days you're better than other days, but you keep on this evolutionary arc of more and more and more of the presence of God expressing, and next thing you look up, 5 years.
Yeah.
Then 8 years.
That's how it happens.
And then 10 years, you know? And the amount of people that have been touched by the people that you've touched that you'll never meet is monumental. It's fantastic. This is, I would say that being a practitioner and being a spiritual teacher is probably the best job on the planet. You're never unemployed. And you basically get to speak on your own moment of revelation. You get to share the next iteration of the continued revelation that's happening. And you get to share that, and people listen. Oh my God, that's profound. That's profound. So, I don't know how long you want me to go here. I just want to say thank you.
We're not going to go too much longer, but I do want, this is a pretty good chunk of our congregation here. And
people.
The backstage people,
what would you say is the responsibility of the congregation? The community, the beloved community.
The congregation must congregate. One, you want to show up. Now here's the deal. You want to show up in a big way. In a number of ways you want to show up. But first of all, you want to have your presence felt. And you don't want to fall prey to the excuse of, well, I don't feel like going today. I'll show up in spirit. Forget that nonsense. And you also, as you evolve, you want to be aware that when you show up, just as there was somebody here when you first came, and they gave you a vibration that allowed you to take a class or to keep coming back, as you evolve and mature, you'll become that to new people coming in. So you may say to yourself, I don't really need to go today. I'm feeling pretty good. Life is good. I know the mess. I know the teaching. No, but somebody may need to meet you and hear your testimony. And every student knows the worst words that can prevent you from growing is, I already know that. That is the ego. That's the ego's trap. Because the infinite is exactly that. And every time you hear the truth, God is one. One God, one power, one presence, one love. We're all united in this dynamic presence. We're all emanations of the one God, unique expressions of infinite potentiality. Every time you hear the truth, every time you hear it, and you hear it for the first time, then the substrata of that truth unfolds for you, and you continue to become more and more yourself. So never say to yourself, I know that already. Always maintain the beginner's mind and sit with that awareness of the beginner's mind. Always be aware that you are to support your community. You to support your community with your physical presence. You support the community with your volunteer spirit. Because what happens is, giving of your time is the way to enlightenment. Then after you become enlightenment, you give more. After you become enlightened, you give more. Enlightened is the right word because you're basically touching the luminosity and the light that is within you. And then your substance is very, very important. You always want to make sure you're in the number of generosity, that becomes your first fruit. Make sure your community is taken care of, so they continue to touch and uplift and inspire and transform lives. So the responsibility of the community is to be on the edge of growing. Class, study, pray, meditate, class, study, pray, meditate, class, study, pray, meditate.
Yes.
And then you begin to discover dimensions of yourself.
Like Keely said, laugh, laugh, laugh.
And laugh, yeah. Dimensions of yourself that you don't even know are there. Once you become aware that in the human dimension you have your basic needs met, the rest of the time is to explore the unknown from the depth of your own soul. And that's where the juice is, that's where enthusiasm is, that's where eternal happiness and love is. Bliss is the activation of your potential. That's where you live in bliss, the activation of your potential. So you got to just stay with the teachings and stay with the practice. And I'm telling you, life is good, man.
Yes.